What's up, everyone? Justin here, back with a new series of wrestling shows for my channel. This is episode 1, or I don't know if I'll call it episode 1 in the future, but this show and series of shows is me talking about the NWA and eventually would become WCW and the WWF. Sometimes on the same fucking day, on the same Saturday or Sunday, they went head-to-head on pay-per-view against each other, head-to-head. It was like before the Monday Night Wars. What am I talking about? I'm talking about when you had the NWA and sometimes, or before they were WCW, and WWF on the same fucking day, having a pay-per-view at the same day, or having a pay-per-view on the same day or night. This is wrestling pay-per-view wars that I'm going to be talking about. First episode, I'm going to talk about the time the NWA and Starrcade 87, went head-to-head with a new pay-per-view that the WWF was debuting. Survivor Series 87, Survivor Series Starrcade, they went head-to-head on the same day. But I have a little bit of information about what happened. Starrcade, there's a lot of dirty tricks were used by Vince McMahon to try to threaten pay-per-view companies. If you don't drop, or I guess he wanted them to drop and not show Starrcade. If you don't drop Starrcade or move the time of the event or the day, I don't know, but Vince was ruthless. You can hate Vince all you want, but in the fucking 80s, he was the king of sports entertainment, the king of pro wrestling. He was a top promoter. He was young. He had balls, just giant balls to make his company number one. He would do anything. He didn't care if he would piss off other companies or promoters. He didn't care. He thought his company was number one, and he wanted everybody to see it. And he thought there should be no fucking competition for me because I'm just the best and everybody else sucks. Well, as a fan, I was a young kid. I didn't watch Starrcade 87 live. I didn't watch Survivor Series 87 live. I saw them later on when I rented videos and rented wrestling videos. I like Blockbusters. Or I'll give you a throwback video store. It's called Planet Video. Like those Planet Hollywoods. Well, this was called Planet Video. I went to a lot. They had a lot of wrestling videos. A lot of NWA from the 80s and a lot of WWF. And then later on, of course, I went to just about every Blockbuster I could get to when I was a teenager to try to rent wrestling videos and pay-per-views I never saw before. But anyways, I was a young kid. I didn't even see the NWA, but if you want to compare them, the NWA was like, it felt real. It felt gritty. It was not well lit. It was not great production at all. A lot of their pay-per-views and TVs were in dark arenas and small venues, especially their TV show on TBS, the Superstation. It was in a tiny, tiny TV studio in Atlanta, Georgia. WWF TVs were all taped. And they were in bigger arenas. The production of WWF, in my opinion, blew away any other company. But as a kid, I didn't compare and fight with friends about what's better, the NWA or WWF. I was too young. Later on, as a teenager, when I saw a lot of NWA, I thought it was a better product, better wrestling. Felt more realistic, not like sports entertainment. It was like pro wrestling was the NWA. WWF was characters and larger than life superheroes that came to life that looked like real fucking superheroes because they had muscles bulging out everywhere because, well, let's be honest, everybody in the NWA and WWF in the 80s was probably on roids, for sure. At least 85 to 95% of the guys were on roids because they had to be. They were on the road so much, beating up their bodies, they had to, like, recover. You could recover sooner from injuries, I guess, if you take steroids. That's what I heard. I never took a steroid, and I never will. But anyways, so that's my opinion. NWA was like pro wrestling, felt edgier for like adults, the product, and WWF was kid-friendly sports entertainment, but adults were also into it. And I could compare the rosters. Both rosters of the NWA and WWF in 87 were fucking loaded with Hall of Famers. I'm not going to name everybody, but you had the franchise guys. Hulk Hogan of the WWF, Ric Flair of NWA. You had the Road Warriors and the NWA, Midnight Express, Rock and Roll Express. Powers of Pain were in NWA for a short time in 87. I think the sheep herders were also there, formerly, or would become the Bushwhackers. I think they were there in 87 also, or early 88. Lex Luger, Tully Blanchard, the Four Horsemen, Barry Windham, Nikita Koloff, Dusty Rhodes, Sting, a young, very young, but just getting better and better and super over Sting. By the time we got to Starrcade, he was over. Listen to the crowd reaction Sting got at Starrcade 7. The crowd went nuts when he was introduced. You had the Steiners weren't out of team yet, but you had the Freebirds were coming back. Probably, I guess they came back in 89, the Freebirds, but what, you get my point. So that was the NWA talent, a ton of great talents. Even they got a whole bunch of guys from Bill Watts, UWF, Dr. Death, Steve Williams, Terry Taylor, and Terry Gordy. They did not get One Man Gang or Hacksaw Jim Duggan. They signed with WWF. Ravishing Rick Rude was actually a part of Starrcade 86, I believe. And then he debuted in WWF in the summer of 87. WWF, again, I said you had Hogan. He was the top guy. You had Roddy Piper for a short time. He was done after WrestleMania 3 to go make They Live. And Vince didn't want him to go unless Vince had a part in the movie or got some of his income from They Live. Vince didn't want him to do it unless he could be involved. That's straight up bullshit there, Vince, trying to get Piper's Hollywood acting movie money just so you could control him, I guess, because you were a promoter. But that shit was wrong, and Roddy Piper didn't play. He didn't play around, Vince. You never owned Roddy Piper and controlled him ever. He did what he wanted when he wanted to. But anyways, Hogan, Piper for a short time. Hacksaw Jim Duggan, One Man Gang, Rick Rude, the Heenan family, Paul Orndorff. By Survivor Series 87, Bam Bam Bigelow was there. Demolition, British Bulldogs, Heart Foundation, Killer Bees, the Rougeau brothers. So many great tag teams. My goodness. The 80s was a fucking golden era for tag teams. So WWF had so many guys. Macho Man Randy Savage. So many guys that looked like fucking top guys, superheroes. But let's talk about Starrcade 87 now. Versus a new pay-per-view, Survivor Series. WWF announced that, again, before Starrcade 7, WWF announced that they will have a second annual pay-per-view, not just WrestleMania. This was before Royal Rumbles, before SummerSlams, before Survivor Series. But they announced, after the big success of WrestleMania 3 in 87, I wonder how many buy rates on pay-per-view WrestleMania 3 got. I should look it up sometime. I don't know. Maybe nobody knows that information. I don't know, but WWF announced they're adding a second pay-per-view event to the calendar. And it will be called Survivor Series. And it would consist of all elimination tag team matches. And it was really entertaining. A great gimmick event in concept. Elimination 5-on-5 tag matches. Or 5 teams against 5 tag teams. And just about every star at Survivor Series, heel or face, got a huge reaction. Everybody was fucking over. Everybody. They either got a big reaction as a heel, or they got really cheered. The crowds were just insane in the 80s. Very, very hype, entertaining crowds, and yes, they did think it was still real to them. I believe, because that's how the crowds fucking acted. Watch the old 80s pay-per-views, the crowds were going nuts. And they legit believed the wrestling was real, and they were really beating the hell out of each other. And as a kid, I believed it was real, until I was about 7. How could you not? They bled, and stuff like that. I mean, I believed. As a kid, I fucking bought in and believed they were beating the hell out of each other. And I loved it and got hooked. Anyways. So they said Survivor Series would take place on Thanksgiving. Why do you think they announced that? To fuck with Jim Crockett Promotions and the NWA. And I guess try to take their fans away to order Survivor Series. And it probably worked. But Starrcade still got an okay amount of buys. But some NWA fans might have thought, I want to get Survivor Series to watch Hogan versus Andre, because they were on opposite teams in the main event. So anyways, Jim Crockett Promotions tried to counter by moving Starrcade to the late afternoon on Thanksgiving or early evening. And at first it seemed like that would work, but it didn't. They thought it worked because cable companies could have offered package deals to make more money. Stuff like that. But the fans would get to see 2 super shows and super pay-per-view cards back to back on a holiday. But anyways, WWF, what the hell is this thing? WWF's plan and Vince's plan to threaten the pay-per-view companies, if you don't get rid of Starrcade for Survivor Series. You will not get WrestleMania 4 as a pay-per-view. I don't know what the fuck Vince was thinking, what he was on. But he tried to threaten the pay-per-view companies. If you don't get WrestleMania, I'll pull it off. So then where the fuck are you going to show it and make money? In theaters only? Closed circuit? That wouldn't have been enough. It's people at home ordering it on pay-per-view. Yeah, a wrestling show pay-per-view could be cool to watch in a theater, but I would rather, it wouldn't be for me. Unless I would like go with a friend maybe. But I'd rather sit at home and be comfortable and watch the show at my home. Unless I'd attend it live, I would not go to a theater. But anyways, it backfired on the WWF when the pay-per-view companies realized they would benefit, but both companies ended up benefiting from the attention. And then the WWF refused to let the cable companies, and they gave them an ultimatum that if you carry Starrcade, you won't get WrestleMania 4. WrestleMania 4 happened in 1988. Anyways, the pay-per-view companies in 87, they had to negotiate with like Vince or Jim Crockett. Anyways, because the pay-per-view companies were smaller back then. But anyways, Starrcade still got a pay-per-view. And the live event, they claim it, the live event in Chicago sold out at the UIC Pavilion. And the pay-per-view was available in homes. And by the way, it goes on to say almost every cable company actually buckled to Vince and WWF. They almost all buckled. Only four pay-per-view companies. I don't know how many were around. Could have been a ton back then. I don't know. Probably like 10 or 20 different pay-per-view companies in the 80s. I don't know. Because cable TV was exploding and everybody wanted to get it. You could order movies from home. You could order pay-per-view events from home. Not just wrestling was exploding on cable in the 80s and pay-per-views, but boxing. Mike Tyson was a fucking number one draw for pay-per-view companies. His fights, even though his fights would last like 20 seconds or under a minute, a lot of them, for world title boxing fights. So you're absolutely screwed or fucked. If you ordered a boxing, Mike Tyson fight, it ended quick, and even UFC, if you order that nowadays, those fights could end anytime within a minute or less. So for my money, my opinion, wrestling pay-per-views are the thing to order. Because you get your money's worth, at least. And the matches all don't end in like seconds. And I know it's predetermined. I don't give a fuck. You know what else is predetermined? TV shows and movies. And everybody likes them. And anyways, where was I? Starrcade. So yeah, Starrcade was only on 4 pay-per-view providers. That's insane. 3 of them were Jim Crockett's home base, I guess in the South, and 1 was in San Jose, California, where those in charge refused to go back on their word and get rid of Starrcade. Again, that's bad business to get rid of 2 wrestling companies for 1. Because guess what? If you're a pay-per-view company, you can make money off both companies and not refuse to put one on. That's stupid, dumb, bad business. So Starrcade 7 did 20,000 pay-per-view buys. for a 3.3% buy rate. I don't really know what 3.3 means. $3 million? I don't know. But they got 20,000 pay-per-view buys for Starrcade. What did Survivor Series get? I don't know. Probably a lot more. But anyways, I'm going to talk about now the cards for which one was better. This isn't a debate show, but in my opinion, I'm going to look at both cards. I haven't watched Starrcade 7 in a couple years, I think, or 2 years ago maybe. But, yeah, Starrcade 87. I remember, like, 3 matches I was really into when I rented the video as a kid and a teenager. I didn't see Starrcade 87 until, like, I think the year 2000. That's when I found the video at a video store. I had no other way to get it. I didn't order the pay-per-view originally and fucking record it. So I had no other way to see Starrcade 87. Guess what? There was no YouTube. When I was a teenager, there was no Netflix. There was no WWE Network. There was no WWE on Peacock. I had no way to see Starrcade 87 until I found it in a video store. That's a throwback when you used to go to video stores and rent movies. Now the video stores are in our fucking homes for streaming, and that's a lot easier. And my God, it's great. Technology is great. That we can stream TV and movies at our home. If you want to pay for streaming services, you can. It's a lot damn easier than going to video store after video store looking for wrestling pay-per-view videotapes. Here's the old videotape I have. But I bought a lot of them. But these were in video stores too. Get the best of In Your House. With only like 4 matches from In Your Houses on it. Only like 4 matches. Or 1, 2, 3. Actually 5 matches. Bret Hart, Jerry Lawler from like In Your House 1, I think. Shawn Michaels, Jeff Jarrett, IC title. In Your House, I think July 95. Goldust, Marty Jannetty, Goldust, WWF debut, and Undertaker versus Mabel. Bret Hart versus Diesel. From Rage in the Cage, In Your House. February 96. So I will say going to video stores as a teenager and a kid was a lot of fucking fun. Going in a store, searching for a video, actually taking it physically off the shelf, holding it, renting it, or buying it. It was awesome. I'm glad I grew up when video stores were still around. Because now they're fucking dead and gone. Unless maybe a few of them you can find that are small, owned by a small business. Anyways, I'm sure there's still VHS stores or video stores where you can probably find old VHS wrestling tapes. But I can just watch them anytime I want on Peacock. So I'm not going to search video stores anymore. I own enough wrestling anyways on videotapes and DVDs. And Peacock anytime I want to play it. Anyways. Starrcade. 87. Chi-Town Heat. I don't know why they had to go to Chicago. But they claim it was a sellout. They should have just stayed in the South. Attendance was 8,000. Excuse me. 8,000. I guess that's sellout. Well, that's small building. Pretty small building. But it's still 8,000 people paid. So let's go over the matches here for Starrcade 87. And then I'll talk about Survivor Series 87, which they were on the same fucking day, Thanksgiving 87. If I could have ordered one of them, if I was old enough and I was aware how to order or could pay for it, I would have picked, to be honest, I would have picked Survivor Series 87. Because WWF is the first company I saw as a fan. They got me hooked. Hulk Hogan got me hooked. So I always feel loyal to WWF and WWE. But I did like the NWA a lot in their action. How it was just straight up hard-hitting, bloody pro wrestling. Felt more realistic than WWF's action. But WWF in the 80s, they did some edgy stuff. Ron Bass busted open Brutus Beefcake and was grinding his head with a tool. And then they had to put an X over the screen like they were censoring it. Rick Rude got his fucking tights pulled down in the middle of the ring, and Jake the Snake was dragging him around nude, I guess. Or he had a jock strap on. I don't know. They blacked it out if Rick Rude was nude or not. Again, I doubt he's nude with his fucking cock flapping in the wind. I doubt that. But still, it's funny as hell. He was just dragging around Rick Rude with his tights down like he stripped him naked. That was hilarious. As a kid, my mind was blown. I was like, what the fuck's happening? I think I was laughing, actually. And I was only 4 or 5 years old. I just saw it's funny as hell that Jake the Snake stripped Rick Rude naked. Again, people in the arena, I doubt they saw him nude. Maybe his bare ass. But in the 80s, wrestlers always pulled each other's tights down. You got to see their bare ass. Again, I don't know why they had to do that. I didn't need to see any man ass. But they always did that in the 80s. Would pull each other's tights down for leverage to try to get a roll-up. I wonder who the hell started that. I don't know, but it was weird. And it was funny. Probably Ric Flair started it. Because he always got his tights pulled down. Or he told his opponent, pull my tights down. I don't know why. To pop the crowd, I guess. Starrcade 7 kicked off with Eddie Gilbert. Larry Zbyszko and Rick Steiner as a team. With a Baby Doll taking on Jimmy Garvin, Michael P.S. Hayes, and Sting. It was a 6-man tag. The crowd was really hot. It went to a time limit draw. So it went 15 full minutes for the UWF Heavyweight Championship. I don't know why Jim Crockett had to overpay for the UWF. That was a stupid business decision. Steve Williams, Dr. Death, defended the title and defeated Barry Windham. I think it was a good match. I don't really remember much about it. Rock and Roll Express. I remember this as a kid and a teenager because I watched it over and over. The scaffold match. The Rock and Roll Express. The Midnight Express. Rock and Roll was Ricky Morton, Robert Gibson against Bobby Eaton, Stan Lane. Big Bubba Rogers was there. And this was not the scaffold match from a year earlier, which probably drew and made more money, I think, for Starrcade 86 than it did at Starrcade 7. Where you had the Road Warriors take on the Midnight Express. And my God, poor Jim Cornette dropped. He has said in interviews, a shoot interview I saw that I own, he said he was going to drop and have Big Bubba Rogers catch him. Well, Big Bubba didn't even bother trying to catch him. He just was hanging like this, and his legs were dangling, and he dropped. Absolutely exploded, blew out his knee, fucked his knee up really bad. He was in so much pain, you could tell. He was carried. He went under the ropes. He was like limping on one leg, and Big Bubba wouldn't even carry him out. I think might have got carried out, or just had his arm over Big Bubba. I know he's telling Big Bubba, carry me, and I don't know if he did. I don't remember. Scaffold match, though, Rock and Roll defeated the Midnight. It was pretty entertaining. Those scaffold matches, looking back on them, they're fucking insane and extremely fucking dangerous. I wouldn't want to take a bump 15 feet in the air to the mat. No thank you, because look what happened to Jim Cornette's knee when he fell on his feet. He should have fell on his ass, but then he could have broke his fucking tailbone. Who knows? But, man, that's one of the craziest things ever. Watch Jim Cornette at Starrcade 86 fall off the scaffold and just destroy his knee. It is just sick and nasty to watch. Up next, we had the Unification NWA TV title, UWF TV title. This was really good. Went 18 minutes. Nikita Koloff defeated Terry Taylor for the NWA tag titles. Again, this was one of my favorite matches on Starrcade 7. I would say there were 4 of them. The opener, 6-man tag, the scaffold match, and the NWA tag titles, and Ric Flair, Ronnie Garvin. But as a kid, as a teen, I was pissed. And I thought, why the fuck did the Road Warriors not win? In their gimmick hometown, Chicago, they didn't win the titles. It was stupid. Bad booking. Road Warriors challenging Arn Anderson, Tully Blanchard for the NWA tag titles. Again, Tully and Arn won. Dumb booking. They should have lost. Dusty Rhodes defeated Lex Luger for the U.S. title in a cage. You had a double cage match at Starrcade 87. Kind of seems like they were trying to really, really overbook and load the card up. A scaffold match, 2 cage matches. That's a bit much. Yeah, that you're really getting your money's worth, but that's a little bit overbooking. Too many gimmick matches on one show. You don't need 3 gimmick matches on a show. Anyways, main event. Ric Flair defeated Ronnie Garvin for the NWA World title. Ric Flair got a babyface reaction. The fans in Chicago wanted him to win. I think they respected Ronnie Garvin, but the fans wanted Flair to be the world champ. And he won it back. He got a huge reaction. It was a great cage match, I thought. One of my favorite matches of the 80s. Seriously, one of my favorite Ric Flair matches is Ric Flair and Ronnie Garvin. They always tore it up, had classics, and just beat the shit out of each other with hitting each other and chopping each other. That definitely was not sports entertainment. Ric Flair, Ronnie Garvin, that was straight up hard hitting, in your face action, just nonstop. Beating the crap out of each other, and it was great. Final thoughts on Starrcade 7. Pretty good show. But in my opinion, only like 4 matches were my favorites and worth checking out. The NWA tag titles, even though the Road Warriors should have won, the 6-man tag opener, the scaffold match, and Ric Flair, Ronnie Garvin are worth watching. They still hold up. Even though the crowd was fucking pissed that the Road Warriors lost. So now I'm going to talk about Survivor Series 87. Because they were the same fucking day. is Starrcade 7, and this show is called Wrestling Pay-Per-View Wars. And there were only really two companies that were going to war on pay-per-view. NWA, WCW, and the WWF. AWA tried. They failed. Big time. AWA had a few good talents. Nick Bockwinkel, Kurt Hennig, Jerry Lawler, Kerry Von Erich. And other than that, they didn't really have any other big names to compete on pay-per-view. Survivor Series 87, the crowd was hot for like the whole show except for the women's match. So, I gotta find it. Survivor Series 87 from Richfield, Ohio. I think a friend of mine on Twitter, you know you are Mayor of Canton. I think you told me you were there at Survivor Series 88. I think you said 88, maybe 87. But I believe you said you were at Survivor Series 88. I'm jealous. That's awesome you got to go. First wrestling event I went to in 88 was, not 88, but the first wrestling event I went to as a kid in the 80s was a house show. I don't remember really who was on it. I think Paul Orndorff, Billy Jack Haynes were on it, maybe Bam Bam Bigelow, Rick Rude, I think. Anyways, that was a house show. The first big event I went to, or second big event in the 80s, was the main event, where the Mega Powers broke up and Miss Elizabeth was knocked over outside the ring by Randy Savage. I actually was at that show. The main event in 1989. I think it's February or January. The main event. Anyways, that happened in Milwaukee. And I was there as a kid. It was a very long taping, like 4 hours, I think. Because they did other matches for TV. But I was there for the main event when the Mega Powers exploded and broke up. And backstage, Randy Savage hit Hogan with the title and he fell to the floor. And Hogan was grabbing Elizabeth's hand like he's praying for her to please be okay. That was good shit. So Survivor Series 87 kicked off with 5-on-5. Survivor Series elimination, Brutus Beefcake. These are the babyface team. Brutus Beefcake, Jake the Snake, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Randy Savage, and Ricky Steamboat. And you had a ton of managers at ringside for like every Survivor Series match. Miss Elizabeth was there. The heel team, Dangerous, Danny Davis, Harley Race, Hercules, a Honky Tonk Man, and Ron Bass, with two managers, Bobby Heenan and Jimmy Hart. Jimmy Hart and Bobby Heenan were like out for every single match almost, because they had a lot of guys they managed, and girls. Jimmy Hart managed, what was their name? The Glamour Girls. Jimmy Hart was their manager. I think they were the women's tag champs at the time. So anyways, the babyface team, Randy Savage, Ricky Steamboat, Hacksaw Jim Duggan, Jake Roberts, and Brutus Beefcake win. Now we have a women's elimination. The Fabulous Moolah. She did absolutely nothing during this match. She shouldn't have been in the fucking ring anymore. She actually sucked as a wrestler, in my opinion. The jumping, Fabulous Moolah, the Jumping Bomb Angels, they were a great fucking tag team. Watching their stuff now, they were ahead of their time and great. I think they both retired in like 91, I think. Or one of them did. Or they broke up in 91. I'm not sure. But the Jumping Bomb Angels were a legendary team from Japan, and I think they should go into the WWE Hall of Fame. And I believe they did win the women's tag titles at one point. Anyways, Rockin' Robin was also on the face team against and Velvet McIntyre. They defeated Dawn Marie, not Dawn Marie from ECW. Donna Cesonello, I forget how you say her name, and the Glamour Girls and Sherry Martel. They lost to the Babyface women's team. Now we have a 10-on-10 Survivor Series tag team matchup. British Bulldogs, the Babyface team, the British Bulldogs, the Killer Bees, the Fabulous Rougeau Brothers, Strike Force, and the Young Stallions. That's a lot of fucking wrestlers. And they defeated and took on the Bolsheviks, the Dream Team, the Hart Foundation, the Islanders, and Demolition. And for the heels, you had managers. My goodness. For the heels, you had Bobby Heenan, Mr. Fuji, Jimmy Hart, Johnny Valiant, and Slick were all the managers. At ringside for the heels, that's 5 managers. For the heels, they could have been a managers on managers elimination match. They had so many managers. Seriously. Okay, heel manager team against the babyface manager team. But there weren't that many babyface WWF managers at all, except Miss Elizabeth. She wasn't going to wrestle. And Billy Graham in 88. And Sir Oliver Humperdinck was a face in 87. But I don't know. He was really fat. I don't think he wrestled anymore. I think he did wrestle at one point. Sir Oliver Humperdinck. I think he was a wrestler before a manager. I'm pretty sure he was in Florida. Main event was that, and by the way, the babyface tag teams defeated all the heel tag teams. So far, the 3 babyface teams have won. The main event would be different. The heels would win. Team Andre the Giant. This was billed, the entire Survivor Series was billed as Hogan versus Andre, like Part 2. WrestleMania 3 Part 2. You're going to get to see Hogan and Andre go at it again, and everybody wanted to see that. Crowd went nuts when Hogan was tagged in and went after Andre. Andre the Giant's team is just loaded with super heavyweights and just great heels. Andre the Giant, Butch Reed, King Kong Bundy, One Man Gang, and Rick Rude. They took on Hulk Hogan's team, Bam Bam Bigelow, Don Morocco, Hulk Hogan, Ken Patera, and Paul Orndorff. And Oliver Humperdinck was the face manager on Hogan's team. For Paul Orndorff, for Bam Bam, I believe. Anyways, at one point, superstar Billy Graham was supposed to be a part of Hulk Hogan's Survivor Series team. That didn't happen because he broke his hip because he destroyed his body with way too many steroids. But you can find pictures on the internet of Billy Graham with Hogan and his Survivor Series team. He was supposed to be in there. I think Don Morocco replaced him, or Paul Orndorff. And Andre's team won when Andre pinned Bam Bam Bigelow. Again, Survivor Series was a great event. In my opinion, better than Starrcade 87. Starrcade was good. But to me as a fan, the production, the crowd reactions, the talent just got bigger reactions than the wrestlers at Starrcade 87. I mean, the Road Warriors got a huge reaction, but like all the talent at Survivor Series 88 got a big reaction. All of them. The crowd was absolutely hype and into it the entire show. Again, for the women, They were kind of dead. But Survivor Series versus Starrcade 7. Both really good events. And to me, Survivor Series 87 was better. Hope you enjoyed this first episode of Wrestling Pay-Per-View Wars Starrcade 7. Survivor Series 87 as I just dropped something. Anyways, like, comment, share, subscribe. My next, God damn it, give me a second. So I'm back. I had to wipe something up that I spilled on my floor, a drink. Anyways, my next wrestling pay-per-views wars show will be on the Bunkhouse Stampede 88 and the Royal Rumble 88. Also, after that, my third show of wrestling pay-per-view wars or super shows going at it on this same day. Clash of Champions 1 and WrestleMania 4. Like, comment, share, subscribe. Bye for now.